Hello and welcome back to the channel. So in today's episode we're gonna build a very nice and mobile, maybe not mobile friendly but everyday friendly sidebar menu using React Router, React and TypeScript. This menu also will be multi-level, so you can get like parent routes and child routes if you need. The finished product should be something like this. As you can see here, we have that wonderful sidebar, and you can go to each route. We also got 404 handled. What is interesting is that, as you can see, it has multi-levels, so I can go one level and create child and parent routes. So for example, these are routes for the message, and clicking home will always bring me to the top level. What's also cool is that this the width of that menu is automatically calculated. So if I'm gonna change that here to something like notifications are really important right now, what we're gonna get is width is being adjusted to the width of the longest label we have in our menu. Okay, so let's get to work. So first things first, I'm gonna create a new file here and call it routes.ts to define our routes. Okay, and I'm gonna install React icons. Do we need types for those? React. Yeah, we need. Okay. So here we'll define all our routes. So I'm gonna start by creating enum called route path. The routes we'll have here are login. I'm not sure whether we'll be using all of these. We'll see. Home is gonna be just slash. So basically, these are going to be all the routes that user can navigate to. And of course, you can do your own routes when using that in your project. And logout will be the page that when transitioned to, user should be logged out. Okay. And now I'm going to define an interface describing the sidebar nav item. The item will show in the sidebar. So, and that's just a model, not a component. So sidebar nav item should have a name, type string, path router, an icon which is of type React component component type. Okay, that's cool. And then we'll define the route itself. And the route has a name, has a path, which is route path, sidebar nav items, because yeah, you could have children here, or basically this is the array of the items that should be displayed in the sidebar when we're on a given route. As I've shown you before, this is changing from route to route. And the component to render, which is React component type. Okay, so we have our interfaces defined. Now we can define our sidebar nav items, and we're gonna have two sets. One is like the default, and the second one will show whenever someone accesses the messages route. So let's call this default sidebar nav items, and this array of sidebar nav items. Just boop, make this a little bit bigger. Okay, we're starting, of course, with the home, right? And the path is route path dot home. And also we're gonna bring the icon here, and we're gonna start importing from material designs icons. So that's gonna be react icons.md. Okay, and we're going with md home. Let me import all of the icons that we need here, so I don't have to make it back to that line. MD modifications, MD email, MD settings, MD log out, MD out line create, MD delete forever. These are all of the icons that we need. And let's go back to our default sidebar nav items definition. This is going to be md home, as you can imagine. Next one is create message. The path is route path create message, and the outline create. I messed up. Those should be the other messages. So let's get that definition here. Messages sidebar nav items. Okay, that's fine. We can do that instead. We also need a home here, just to always make it back to home. Check messages and removed messages. And route removed icon md delete forever. Okay, this is the definition for messages sidebar nav items. Done. You can collapse that. Moving on with that definition set. Route path notifications. Icon is gonna be MD notifications. You guessed it. Then there's the inbox. Name settings. It's route path settings. Icon is MD settings. Okay. And then there's the logout. Of course, we're not gonna implement any kind of authorization here. This is more about React Router and building the components and building the authentication system. But I have tutorials about that. Okay, this is the definition for the default sidebar nav items that we'd like to see here. So now, let me just get a sip of coffee. We're gonna create a new folder here, and I'm gonna call it pages, and this is gonna hold the components that will render as the main components for each route, so hence the name pages. I'm gonna create index file just for fun and start creating the pages. So home tsx logout. Oops, come on. Logout tsx notifications tsx. I'm gonna also create a NoMatch tsx that's gonna be rendered when we cannot find given route. It's like 404. I'm gonna create another folder called messages and keep all of the pages regarding the messages here. So that's gonna be, of course, messages.tsx, create message.tsx, and then remove the messages.tsx. Okay. With that done, we're gonna fill out those pages. There's not gonna be much essence to it, so we're gonna just return a simple div with a string because, well, we will work more on the menu itself than the content and look of those pages. So let's do export default div create oops, just let's say messages. That's good enough for now. Then here export default create message. That's gonna be as simple as that. That's basically all that we need here. Default narrative remove messages. Okay, that's fine. Div home div. Here we're gonna do logout. Again, basically what you would do here in a real example, in a real app, is have some kind of effect that is being triggered whenever someone is coming to that page. So yeah, maybe let's be cool about it and do that. So const logout default logout. Okay. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna return, well, nothing fancy here. Logout logout. But basically, what would you do? You just would use effect here, trigger it whenever page is loaded. Make some kind of asynchronous function if it does need to destroy a token on the API. And call any kind of API call here. And then just trigger that function here. Okay, so that's how would you basically trigger a logout function in React. Moving on, let's do notifications first. That brain fart. That was terrible, you know. It's notifications. Okay. I'm gonna leave NoMatch for now. Or maybe not. It's time to do this. We need side components to do the styling because I like them. And basically that's my main go-to when it comes to styling stuff in React. Okay. And what we need is latest version of React Router DOM and types for it. And this 621, okay, this looks correct, I hope. So let's do the NoMatch component now. That will display whenever we hit 404. I'm gonna import link from React Router DOM. And I'm going to import, of course, styled from styled components. I'm going to create NoMatch wrapper as our main styling wrapper. And that's not how you do styling. Okay. Nothing fancy here, just display flex, set flex direction to column, align items, center. Sounds cool. And NoMatch. Nothing fancy here too. I'm just gonna do NoMatch wrapper. Close it. Here I'm gonna say something like nothing to see here. And do the link to home. That's gonna be our home path. Go to the home page, link, export. Okay, now since we have all that, it's gonna be very good if we use our index file just to re-export everything, and this is gonna be useful for importing stuff in other components, and it's gonna shorten the amount of code we're gonna write. Also, here you can kind of define the interface of what should be actually exported from your module. If we treat our pages folder as a module, here we can give the definition of stuff that should be exported and presented to the other modules, to the outside world, because maybe not everything you export from these files should be available outside of this folder. So let's do just that. It's gonna be home from home, import logout from logout, import notifications from notifications, import messages from messages, import create message from messages, create message, import remove messages here and here, and import NoMatch from NoMatch home, logout, notifications, messages, create message, remove messages. Okay, basically we're done with setting everything up, and now we can get to the interesting part, which is going to be working with the React router and building the menu. So let's go to the app, basically get rid of everything, and I'm going to start by importing browser router, and here we're going to define our paths and our routes. The problem here is the menu should be shared across all of the views. Therefore, we're gonna build a parent route and children routes, right? And whatever we will put in the parent route and render as a component in there will be shared into the and across the children routes. So whenever you have some kind of component that's like navigation or a footer or your basic page layout, you encapsulate the children routes and put the layout into a parent route. So this one is gonna be the parent route. Okay, and we should import this and put some definitions here. And then here we're gonna map over our routes that we need to create here. So let's define our routes, and this is gonna be strictly coming to the React router. So export const routes gonna be route array. Do we have a definition for route? Yeah, we have that definition here. As you can see, there's a name, path, sidebar, nav items. That should be with a small letter. Okay, and we can start working on our definitions. So again, as you can see, we're building our code, building our menu rather declaratively. We're defining a lot of, let's say, configuration, and then we'll just plug that into React router. Okay, that's way better than defining it by hand or doing this implicitly. So there's gonna be home, The path's gonna be route path home component. That's gonna be interesting. That's gonna be home, and we can import that, as you can see, from pages. Because of our index file, we don't go to pages home. This can be shorthanded because of index.ts file. Okay, and we have to define sidebar nav items, and this is going to be default. Then we have a name, which is logout, logout. Path going to be route path logout, and I'm not gonna put I'm gonna put logout here, but I'm not gonna put any sidebar nav items. Whenever someone decides to log out, there's no need to render menu anymore. That's why this property was optional in our route definition. Right here. Okay, moving on. We have notifications, path, route, path, notifications component is gonna be notifications from pages, and sidebar nav items, that's gonna be default sidebar nav items. Then we need messages, path's gonna be route path, messages, components gonna be messages, and sidebar nav items here is going to point to the messages sidebar nav items, meaning when coming to that route, we will display a different set of routes in our side menu. Then we have create message, path's gonna be route path, create message, component's gonna be create message, sidebar nav items, message, sidebar nav items, and finally, last one, removed messages. Path's gonna be route path, removed messages, component gonna be removed messages, sidebar nav items gonna be messages sidebar nav items. Thank you. That should be it. Okay. So now I can did I export that? Yeah, I did. Okay. So let's import that here from routes, import routes. Okay. Now this is the parent, and now we're gonna map over and create children routes. So route and return route, that's gonna be self-enclosing, and we need a few things here. Is that an index? We can check that by checking whether we match route path home in our route path. That's one. What is wrong with you? Type Boolean is not assignable to type true. Excuse me. We'll check that later. Path is, of course, the route path. Element is gonna be, of course, route component. That could be with the uppercase, since we're rendering this as a component, but we can live with that. And the key, of course, for our mapping is the route name. Great. Oh yeah, you should wrap that in the routes component. So here, and close it off here. Oops, did I press? I did press something. Yeah, let's make it bigger. Okay. Routes, and this is also coming from the React router. Okay, and as you can see now, we're displaying home here, and if I'm going to go to notifications, it's going to display our notification component. So we basically set our routes app, which is great. If I'm going to go to messages, it's going to be the same. It's going to display messages. One thing though, somewhere here I defined route path settings, and I defined it here as a possible menu item, but I didn't define this in a route, and I did it on purpose because now we can use our NoMatch component, meaning whenever someone accesses the route that is not defined in the routes here, we should display 404. And we can do that by adding a route with wildcard, meaning anything else that does not match, display NoMatch component, and I can import it here. And whenever someone tries to access something that definitely does not exist, we're rendering NoMatch component, and we can navigate back to home. Great. Lots of talking. Let me take a sip of coffee. Good. Okay, with that done, and with our routes finally set up, we can move into the menu itself. So I'm gonna do just that and add an element here called layout. And that's gonna be our basic layout. Layout is not defined. Let's create a folder here and call it layout.tsx. And I'm also gonna create, oops. No, that's wrong. That's definitely wrong. I wanted a folder. No, I don't want to delete src. Layout, create a file, call it layout.tsx. Now it makes sense. And also create, I'm gonna put styles into a separate file because we're gonna have a few of these. Yeah. So our layout. It's gonna return a few things. We need few sites component here. We need layout and a body and the sidebar itself. So how to start it? Okay, well, for now I'm gonna create new file called sidebar.tsx. I'm also gonna create sidebar.styles. TS, that also should be TS instead of TSX. For now, I'm going to create just something, well, dummy here, sidebar, just want something to appear on the screen. Okay, so let's think about, oops, that should be here. Let's think about our layout for a second. I think we can create it using a grid, but you can also create it using basically anything. The flex would work too. So I'm gonna import site here from site components. And that's gonna be, we'll go with main. I think that makes sense. Let's set memo height. Let's do display grid. And I'm gonna use my favorite approach to the grid. I'm gonna create areas. Sidebar body and grid templates. We only need columns because one column is gonna be the menu, and well, the rest is gonna be like main area, the content, the paid area. Right, so that's gonna be auto 1 fr. And if you're not sure what I'm doing here, just go to the MDN web docs. This is the best like description of the grid, or you can go to CSS tricks and search for the grid, right? And this whole complex explanation is gonna tell you everything you need to know about the grid. For now, you can just understand that we're creating basically a layout with two columns. One's going to be the sidebar for our menu, and the other one's going to be a body. So let's define the body here. Grid area, the name's going to be body, and I'm going to just create margin left of 8 pixels. Okay, this is good. With that done, we can go to the layout. I'm gonna import our styles. So import as S from layout styles. So S layout, close it off, and we need S body. Okay, this is great. What we need here is to tell React Router where it should render the child routes, right? Because right now we're building the parent route and we have children here, but we need to inform our React Router where should he actually put and render our children, okay? And for that, you have a special component in React Router called outlet. And we imported from React Router DOM. And this is defining the place to put our children. So outlet. Okay, let's export default that. Layout is not defined. Okay, cool. Let's import that. So layout from sir, that should be visible. Maybe rename that. Okay, from layout. Okay, everything is still working, even though we're not showing our wonderful sidebar yet, because we didn't define it. And now we're rendering children. If we try and inspect that, you can see that our grid area here, our styles from the layout are applied, meaning everything should be good. So this is our main that we define, and this is our body. Right. Finally, moving to our wonderful sidebar. This is gonna be a tricky one, so bear with me. What we need here is to write a lot of code, but I promise I'm gonna try and explain everything as we go. So let's just return anything right now. Sidebar. This should be rendered here. So sidebar. This is exported. It's imported by hand. Sidebar from, sidebar. Okay, yeah, as you can see, even though it's not impressive, it is showing on the screen. So let's start by finding our current location and our current route. So location we can get by using use location hook. Which should be available to us, UZ location, okay, from React Router. And let's see what we're getting here. Path name, okay, and if I'm going to change to notifications, we're getting our location from React Router. Great. So let's not only find location, but also find our current route from the routes we defined in our routes.ts file. So I'm gonna create current route, and since I don't want that route to be current route to be recalculated on every render, I'm gonna memoize it using use memo hook. Okay, and I'm gonna recreate it every time location is changed. Other than that, it should stay the same. So this is just to limit the amount of the times that given variable is being recalculated. So in the routes, find route, and I'm gonna use special function from React Router called match path. That's gonna be current location path name and route path. Okay, so we're searching based on the given location. We're looking for the route that is currently being rendered on the screen to get the sidebar nav items, as you will see in a second. And if I'm gonna log that right now, just to show you that, okay, I'm getting my object that I defined with the sidebar nav items in it. So that's gonna be helpful. Okay. So now let's start rendering stuff. So going to the sidebar, let's define a few things here. I'm going to create base sidebar width I set to 38 pixels, so this is gonna be the base. And I'm gonna create the sidebar itself, and that's gonna be nav element. Oh, we need styled components here. I'm gonna define the grid area as a sidebar. Why? Because here in our layout, that's the name of the grid area. Okay. Position is gonna be sticky because I would like for it to stay in a place. Height is gonna be calculated as 100 view height minus 16 pixels. The mean height, I'm just gonna put it as minus 16. You can calculate in here. At the margin bottom 8 pixels. I believe we're gonna do the width. Okay. Nothing on the screen yet because, well, we're not using that. But I'm gonna import the sites here. Sidebar styles. Whoa, that's way too much. Okay. I have something going on. Next part. That's gonna be sidebar content that we need. So let's do that. Sidebar styles, export, const sidebar content. That's gonna be, I'm gonna do with UL and LIs for that one. List style, definitely none. Reset the margin, reset the padding, add the padding left of 8 pixels. Display it as a flex. Set width to the base value we defined. Flex direction. Column. Align items. Oops, items. Center. Background color. I have some nice dark blue here. Height. I'm gonna add padding top 32 pixels. Overflow hidden. Okay, we'll need a little bit more, but let's use that for now. So let's do S sidebar content, close it. Okay, and here we're gonna actually, oh, now you can see it. The blue, dark blue strip. Let's do current route and finally use our sidebar nav items and map these. And we will return something. Let's maybe do item icon for now. We'll need key, right? Or unexpected token. Why? Oh yeah. It's something like this. Okay, not very impressive, but you can see the icons here. And what's more important, if I'm gonna call to messages here, that renders separate type of icons. So that's wonderful, except for the fact that we need to work on styles a little bit more here. Yes, so maybe first let's fix our icons here. Okay, so what we can use here is icon context from React icons library. I'm gonna do just that. So I believe maybe over here, icon context provider, go with a value, and we can define the color to be what the white, and size of 2em. Close that, and close that here. Okay, way better, way better. Okay, now let's go back to our styles and the stuff that we need. And that's gonna be wrapper for our item, so our li. Can basically close that for now. Sidebar item, that's gonna be styled li with the width. We're gonna do 100%. Cursor set to pointer, height set to 60 pixels, display set to flex, align items set to center. We're gonna transition background on hover, so transition background color point to S is, and hover and change the background color to RGBA 255, 255, 255. Okay. And use it, of course. So S sidebar item, S sidebar item. That's not correct. That's definitely not correct. Okay, and as you can see now, as we're hovering, there's a little bit of highlight, which is nice. Yeah, just that tiny bit of an effect, which is great. Okay, next up is we have to define the link here. So we're gonna style a link. So close that off. Export const sidebar link. That's gonna be styled link from React Router. Great. We're gonna do not much, but display flex, align items, center, remove the text decoration. Can use that. So S sidebar link, Boop. We need to define the to, and that's gonna be item dot path. Okay, so if I'm correct now, clicking on this should move us across stuff. Something's wrong with create message. Create message. Let's see, create message. path create. Oh yeah, fix this. Okay, wonderful. So this is working, but we need more. Let's create a container for our icon. So close that off. And this is going to be icon container. Okay, and this is gonna be a div. Set the width to 48 pixels, min width to also 48 pixels, height to 48 pixels, because why not? Display flex, align items center, and use that. Come on. Okay. Let's see. This path, this SVG. This is our container, 48 by 48. It doesn't have any impact yet, but it will soon. One thing that we're missing is our label, right? Because we have the name, and on the hover we'd like this to accent and show our label. So let's define that. Close that. Export call sidebar label. It's going to be style label. We're going to start with color. It's going to be white. We're going to do text transform capitalize. We're going to set the line height to 20 px, font size to 16 px, white space, no wrap, text overflow clip, and overflow hidden. Okay, let's do this for now and go here, and inside of our link but beneath our container, sidebar label, item name, sidebar, close this please. Well, it looks like there's nothing, but believe me, there is something there. Come on. Okay, there is a label here. The question is why we're not seeing this. Come on. Ugh. Well, basically because it's been cut off. So if I'm, oh, here you can see it, the length of it, right? In the LI, if I would to change the width here, you will be able to see this. Okay, one thing, that default icon here is, this looks really horrendous. So let's change that here. I'm gonna change the font family, and the whole definition, well, basically, can we just go with robot? Okay, there's something here. Okay, that's the base definition, and I'm gonna put roboto here. That's not going to help. Let's just make it visible for now. Oh, it's working. Okay, roboto is working. It looks nice now. Okay. So yeah, that's that. About the fact that we'd like to show our labels whenever someone is hovering here. Okay, so we're gonna go to sidebar content and add hover here. I'm gonna start by setting display for that to none, and then changing it to block. Cannot access before initialization. Okay. No problem, dude. We can fix this. You can access that right now. Okay, we need to change the width, of course. Let's for now set it to 150 pixels. Okay, well, there's one thing I would like to change it. I didn't want to pop it so aggressively, but rather transition it. So let's transition the width with 0.2 seconds and ease a little better. We're almost there. The problem here is, well, I don't know what the width should be. Well, I could pop it to 400 pixels, but then it's too much. So it would be great if there was a way to figure that out dynamically and calculate it somehow based on the amount of the characters in the label. And there is a way to do so. It's a little bit strange, but it works pretty fine, so please bear with me. I'm gonna create a variable here, or constant, call it longest label width, and I'm gonna use memo here, so we don't have to recalculate it every single time we render stuff. We're gonna recalculate it every time we have changed the route. Okay, so now that's gonna be cool, I promise you. First things first, check whether we have anything there. If there's nothing, then the longest label width is 0. Okay. I'm gonna create a helper here and call it sidebar items. Gonna copy stuff from current route just to make the syntax shorter. And then I'm gonna find the longest label in our sidebar items. So longest label, we're gonna sort this sidebar items. You can sort that with A, B, and that's gonna be B name length minus A name length. From that, get the first item because that's going to be the longest and take the name. Okay, so let's find our longest label. Let's see what does it have in it right now. Removed messages, and I'm gonna agree with that. So here we're sorting our labels by the name length. Then when it's sorted, we're taking the first element, which is going to be the longest, and taking the name. Okay, so these items are sorted. Then we're taking the first longest element, the element with the longest name, and then accessing the name property. Okay, now we're gonna do something really tricky. We're gonna mount this name into some kind of DOM node, attach it to the DOM, then take the width from the DOM and remove our label, and that's gonna give us a rough measurement of how long that label is after it's being rendered. So let's find the root node to mount it into. So I'm gonna do get element by ID, root, const label. I'm gonna create the DOM node to mount it with. It's gonna be label. We're gonna set the inner text yes. I'm gonna set the inner text to be the longest label. I'm gonna attach this as a child. And now here, this is rendered into DOM, even though you can't see this. Or maybe you can, yeah. As you can see, this is being rendered, right? But I'm gonna take the width. Width is gonna be label offset width. I'm gonna remove it. Oops, remove that label and return longest width. So I am finding the root, creating DOM node for our label, attaching it, taking the measurement, removing it, returning the longest width. As you can see here, that's gonna work pretty nice. Longest label. I'm sorry, longest label width. Okay, and oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, this is working rather tricky. Okay, and now we have that. We're missing a key, so let's fix that. That's going to be item name. Okay, and now we have the width that we can use to set the width of our sidebar whenever someone hovers over it to match the width of the longest label. So I'm gonna pass that to the sidebar content as longest label width. Okay, then we need to change a few things here. First thing, change the styles. So we need to mention that this is actually accepting longest label width as a prop. That's a number. And then we can change that here to do some calculations. So we're gonna use the prop which is longest label width, and we're gonna do some calculations. It's gonna end with pixels, definitely. I can agree with that. But here, let's do computed width. That's gonna be base sidebar width because we have to take in account the width for our icons. Then longest label width, and then we have to add some offset. I'm gonna go with 64 and return computed width. Come on, computed width. Okay, see how that works? Oh, and this is working pretty nice. That's wonderful. Okay. And whenever I go to home, as you can see, it adjusts itself to the correct width, right? So it stretches, hides, and as I've shown you before, if we go here to our, let's say, create message, where is it? Here. Let's do remove messages that you can recover. It's gonna stretch. So yeah, that's that. That's how you can create two-level sidebar menu that actually adjusts itself to the width of your label. And yeah, it is working. So I hope you enjoyed that. That's gonna be the last tutorial I'm gonna do before Christmas and New Year. I'm gonna take some well-deserved break. I'm gonna sleep a lot, read some books, eat some good food, and get back to you after New Year's Eve. So have a Merry Christmas and wonderful New Year. Goodbye.